Welcome back to Global Card Collectors. Today we have an exciting guest, someone I've been following now for 2 years, basically, is about how long he's been creating content. This is Seth at SoccerCardCorner. You can find him there on Instagram and on YouTube. But I will also note that he has on the podcast feeds, he has the People's Cardboard podcast, which also comes out in video form and you can view on his YouTube page. I highly recommend checking in. His videos are what I would call like evergreen. I went back and watched something. I think your actually second most recent one, the Blue Ocean one, it still resonates today. So I don't think there's a big timestamp on this. And Seth has a background we'll explore a little bit more, but in business, and he clearly brings an intellectual touch to what he's doing. And an analytical one. So I highly recommend it. Check it out. Lots of people have and have enjoyed it. But after that long introduction, welcome, Seth. Thanks for coming on with me.
Yeah, thank you. That was an amazing introduction. I think that was like the best introduction I've ever had ever. So thank you. Yeah, happy to be here. Excited to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
Right on. Yeah. And we've, I think I just started commenting on your videos or something. And we just, back and forth, like, you and I got to know each other, so it's great to see you and kind of have a live interaction
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
So Seth, well, why don't you just start by introducing yourself, where you're from, where you are now, and kind of, how you got into cards, the I guess generic genesis story or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on a lot of it, at least in terms of like the type of stuff I'm doing now. But yeah, my name is Seth, obviously. I am originally from Wisconsin, in the great Midwest. I was born and raised in Wisconsin and then moved to San Francisco right after graduation. I studied accounting in college and did an internship at an accounting firm in San Francisco, and then moved out here after I graduated. Figured I would stay for a few years, but met a girl, and then that's how things kind of go. And then you're here forever. And so I've been in the Bay Area for almost 15 years. We lived in San Francisco for, I think, about 13 of those years. And now we have a couple kids. So we live, further out in the suburbs. Still, I would say throughout my career, I transitioned out of, public accounting and did everything from, like startup accounting, startup like finance, FP&A. Now I work at YouTube doing finance and accounting related, I guess, things around, specifically focus on like new product launches. So it's kind of cool to like use the background that I had in like startups and then working cross-functionally. And now I work very cross-functionally supporting, product launches and things like that. And so, yeah, in terms of cards, it's funny because I like a lot of kids, I was, I was into cards when I was a kid. Like I remember riding my bike to the gas station and getting a pack of like Topps football cards. And then like a lot of people, you kind of grow up and you get busy and you sort of forget about it. And I remember even in like 2015 being like, man, I wonder if people still like, do they still make sports cards? And I remember looking up like, what are the big brands? I remember seeing like Panini. I'm like, what is Panini? I'm like, that's strange. Like they own all the cards. Like, what is that? And so then I like didn't really think much of it. And then like during COVID, that was when I think a lot of people saw it again. And I think partially because of a lot of like the hype and the prices and stuff. But then I started really digging more into like, well, what is going on? And then, you make mistakes in terms of like things you buy or how much you pay or, the whole base card thing. Anyway, like, I guess what I'm saying is I did a lot. My journey is probably very similar to a lot of people in that regard. And then after making a lot of mistakes, I started thinking like, well, what about, there's clearly something about this that I like because I'm dedicating so much of my time to it. What is that? And then I just started thinking about it. And that's where like the soccer card, I guess like focus came, is I realized like when I was dealing with like random football cards, it's like, well, everybody's collecting football, like American football cards. Everyone's doing that. And it's not as fun because it's so competitive. And, it's sort of like solved, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yep.
Whereas like soccer cards, it just seemed much more nuanced and complex and, just something that I wanted to dive in. And then in terms of content, I've kind of really just been sharing things I learn and mistakes I make. And every now and then there's, really good things I do that hopefully people can see and learn from. So that's kind of my long-winded answer of
Yeah.
how I got here, but it's similar to a lot of people, I'm sure.
Very relatable. It is very similar to a lot of people, which I think, I could relate to you watching your videos because I had gone through the same stuff. So I think there's nothing wrong with it being kind of a common story, I guess, in that regard. So yeah, so you got into soccer. Yeah, the Panini shock must have been just kind of like, I remember that first shock. Basketball cards too. Like, I started looking at those. And okay, so you got in 2020, but I think you'd already become a fan of Liverpool, right? We got a Liverpool fan on here.
Yep, that's right.
When did that begin?
Yeah, so that, I guess my soccer journey is I've loved soccer since I was a kid. I used, played when I was like 5, and then I remember the World Cup in the US in 1994. That was kind of like the really big. That was when I was really kind of like all in. And my personality is such that I'm sort of like all in on the things that I'm passionate about, and then sort of indifferent about the things that I'm not. Um, and so I just remember following like the national soccer scene for a while, and playing FIFA and do like all that stuff. And then club soccer, it was hard because for a while in the US at least, there wasn't really a lot of televised like Premier League. Like the Champions League would come on during the knockout stages, but there wasn't really like anywhere you could go like there is now and say watch like every Premier League match or every La Liga match. And I think it was like 2013, NBC Sports was like, "Oh, we're gonna start like Premier League Sundays or whatever." But it was like it was they started showing more than just one game a weekend. It was like several games a weekend. And so me and my friend wanted to start. We're like, "Oh, we're gonna watch this," because we were like excited that it was actually finally available. And we were just watching whatever game was televised. And I think like 3 of the first 4 weeks it was Liverpool against somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously that was so like those first 3 games, and each one it was like a late goal to win. And there's like Luis Suarez and Daniel Sturridge and Steven Gerrard. So you had this like, I guess like exciting-ish team. And we were both like, "Whoa, this team, they're so awesome." So we started like really gravitating towards them. Well, start meeting up at like this tavern at like 7 a.m.
That's great.
because they had the whole package so we could actually watch the games. And yeah, by the time like that season was like 7 or 8 match weeks long, we were already just like all in on Liverpool. Well, then they go on to, almost win the title that year, the Gerrard slip year. And so by the time that season was over, I was just like completely all in. And then because they got so close, it was like, "Oh man, this team's gonna be so fun to follow." Well, then they had the whole kind of dip, and then the whole Jurgen Klopp era. So it's been a fun team to follow. In a way, I kind of like that they don't win everything because it makes the things they do win a little more, I guess, a little more special.
Yeah, you got to suffer, man. Like I'm a Besiktas fan, a Kings fan. Like you just got to know some suffering.
I mean, it really is true. I mean, the nearest and dearest sports team in my heart is probably the Green Bay Packers, just because that's where I grew up. And
Sure.
very successful team, only a couple of Super Bowls in my lifetime. A lot of like missed expectations and disappointments, but it
And
really
and
is like the
and
sweet isn't as sweet without
yeah,
the down times.
I mean probably tough for you, like losing to the Niners in the playoffs, like the whole Rodgers
every
era
every single year.
while
Yeah.
you're in San Francisco. Like sorry, I had to
Yeah.
tease you there, but I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah. I was even at one of those games, one of the playoff
really.
losses. So yeah, it's but that's what I mean. It's when it finally happens, it sort of makes it all worth it. And I think that's similar to Liverpool. I mean, they hadn't won the league since it was the Premier League until, was it 2020, 2021, or 2019, 2020? And they it was just made it that much more worth it to kind of see them finally break through.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle to really attach to an EPL team. Like somehow all my friends are Arsenal, so kind of support them, but then people kind of tell me like you should root for Liverpool. Like, it's just like they're the underdog, like working class, like
Yeah.
and then it says like, it's also like that city is 75% Irish. which
Mm,
I think is just is part of it all, the mix or whatever. I mean, I am an eighth Irish, like every American or something, but
yeah,
not that I don't have a
we all got
connection
some.
there,
Yeah.
but yeah, but it's like underdog stuff, obviously.
Yeah, no, I mean, the last thing I'll say is I remember somebody saying, I don't know where I heard this, but it was like you don't pick your team kind of picks you.
Yeah,
And that's, I mean, for me, that's like what happened. And I think, to your point, the blue collar stuff, I mean, a lot of what I learned about like the city and the people and the fans, it just reminded me so much of Green Bay, like just the blue collar fans where the team is like the most important thing in their lives. Now, I'm sure you can say that about plenty of other teams around the world. So I'm not like trying to discriminate or anything, but at least for me, that like really resonated as I was starting my fandom.
yeah. For people who don't know NFL, I have actually been to a Packers game. I was in Chicago for a year, and like the citizens or people even have shares of the team. Like it's not, there's not like a big city there. It's like it's just it's a storied, very storied franchise. Won the first two Super Bowls, and have won a couple more since at least.
Yeah,
And but definitely a unique thing. So well, cool. So the Klopp era, I guess, with that got you going again, right? And you kind of locked in on a player. So now we'll turn to the cards. Sorry for all the
sure.
talk, guys. Here are the cards. You player collect, as anyone who visits your page will know, Mohamed Salah, a gift from Allah. I think he came from Roma to Liverpool. He's always scoring. It's always almost boring. So please don't take Mohamed away.
Don't take
Right?
him away. That's right. They almost took him away last year, but he stayed. So that's good.
How
Yeah.
did you land on him? I had to get them there. I just love
No,
it.
that was great. I saw where you were going and I'm like, we're gonna let this go. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, it's similar. It's I watched all these Liverpool teams and I guess I didn't really have like a favorite player. I mean, Suarez in that first season was obviously electric to watch, but um then he left and it was kind of just, and there was just something about, so there's a couple things. Like one, I used to play FIFA, as I mentioned, all the time. And I think it was like FIFA 2015, especially. I played a lot. And the way that I played when I would like play online and stuff is I always wanted teams that had really fast wingers. That was just like the way I would set up. And Roma had him as well as a number of other, like they had like Gervinho. They had like a bunch of just like 90 something speed guys that you could just, it was almost like a cheat code. So I was just always playing with Salah on Roma. That was like literally the team that I played with. And so then when he went to Liverpool, I'm like, oh, I know this guy. This guy's like fast and he can score. And then that first season, I mean, he just completely just barn burned the entire, Premier League. And it was just fun to watch. And I think it's sort of like that underdog mentality is like, he's not like a 6'5" like striker, he's like just a small, fast dude running down the wing. And just some of the goals that he scores are just, they're just electric. I mean, he's got like finesse, but he's got like the speed and I don't know. It just sort of, I don't know, just sort of clicked. I just loved watching him. I think there's also something about him being not necessarily from like a common background in the
Yep.
Premier League either. He's like Egyptian, sort of like the face of that country's team. And
And
just coming here
came up through like Egyptian clubs.
yeah. And then I think, and then he's like, was at Chelsea, didn't really work out. People kind of called him a bust. Then he went to Roma, or I think he was at like Fiorentina for a second, and then Roma, and then found his way back. And now, I mean, Liverpool legend in my eyes, but yeah, just kind of, I think just his style of play and like unique background and just obviously him scoring a lot of goals for my favorite team. I think that's kind of the, probably what did it.
Yeah. So he was that first season there when he scored 32 goals. I don't know if you know off the top
Yeah.
of your head. Yeah. So he's led the EPL in scoring in 3 seasons. And he's got with that 32 goal season that's the fourth all time for a single season in the EPL. Of course, Holland broke that, I guess, 2 years ago.
Yep.
He's currently 10th all time in scoring in the EPL history. I mean, he's only been there 7 seasons. Um, you know, I'm curious. I mean, maybe at 2 more good seasons, he moves into the top 5. And yeah, so and we kind of debated, like I kind of asked you, so what's your comp, as of a player in another sport for him? And I like what you came up with.
It's a hard question. But yeah, I mean, going back to just the style of play. So there's this one goal that he scored against Arsenal. I can't remember what season it was, but it was off of a corner where Arsenal was taking a corner. The ball got like deflected out to like the top of the box, and the defender tried to like control it, and it bounced like head high, and Salah just came flying in and hit it with his head and was basically on like a breakaway the other way, and then ended up finishing. And that goal was just like kind of just encapsulates the like experience or like the type of player. And so when I think about that, it reminds me of, in American football, there's a wide receiver called Tyreek Hill, who, small guy, kind of always like dangerous. Like you always have to account for him. And every now and then he'll just, he'll catch like a huge pass and run away from everybody. So even if you have him contained all game, all of a sudden all it takes is like one little spark, and he's, kind of makes you pay. And I kind of thought that was about as close as I could think of to Salah. But I don't know. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to default to basketball analogies, just because I know basketball better, probably too. But I like it. Yeah, I have no other.
Okay.
You've earned that right to comp it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
If I'll tell you offline if I get any other suggestions.
All right. All right.
So about a month ago, on your channel, you talked about, well, actually, you completed it the previous year, but you outlined this set for Salah that you finished now. You want to talk a bit about that, and then yeah, kind of how you got into it. I have a couple of questions kind of about the narrative,
Sure.
but yeah.
Yeah, so the set it's the 2017 Topps Chrome. There's 6 colored refractors, and I was able to complete the full, like all 6 in PSA 10. And so it's the red out of 10. I think there's only 1 graded so far. There's the orange out of 25, the gold out of 50, the green out of 99, the blue out of 150, and then the purple out of 250. So yeah, I walked through it in the video, just kind of like when I bought, each one, like how I was able to procure them, and just some thoughts around it. But it wasn't something I set out to do necessarily. It was just opportunistically buying like what I would consider, some limited cards from a key set of his. And then out of, I don't know, some research, but then some just opportunity, some of like the bigger cards, like the gold and the red, became available. And then I kind of talked through more of my thoughts around like how to think about things like that, like when a card becomes available when you might not ever see it again, like, because that's like a lot different than just like being patient and trying to buy like the purple refractor on auction, right? And so kind of walking through that, and I just got to the point where I owned half of them, and then the other 3 I knew like they were available, whether it be like via Instagram or via eBay. And so then I started thinking like, wow, this would be really cool to put this together, not only because there might not ever be another one, but also just like I can see each of the puzzle pieces and I just have to put them together. And so as I reflected more on just like my collection and like what's the point of it, that seemed like a worthwhile project to pursue.
I mean, it's an incredible thing. I mean, that the set, the color. I mean, anyone who knows the stock market knows the set probably, unless they're just vintage only or something. But it's that perfect rainbow as you outlined. But I think all in PSA 10 is kind of crazy. And obviously it's the only set because there's only one PSA 10 red out of 10. So congratulations, first of all. It really is like very cool. Yeah, you say a couple times, you said again here that you didn't intend when you started, right? But in the video, you kind of, it's after you get the green, which is the second one you get the purple, and then you get the green. And then you the blue pops up, I believe, and then I guess at PWCC, and you're like,
Yep.
and then I also knew there was a a red and an orange out there. So it's like somewhere between the green and the blue is where it happened.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's exactly right. And I had the green, I had the purple, and then the blue was on PWCC, and I was like, okay. And the interesting thing I think about the blue at the time is, it's out of 150, but I want to say there was only like single digit pop. Like it was very low pop, all things considered. Not that me saying that means like it wasn't coming up that often, I guess is what I'm saying. And then, yeah, I knew like there was an orange listed on eBay for like something crazy. It was like $3,500 or something. And then the red I had seen at various points. The previous owner of the red had made Instagram stories saying like, hey, like taking offers. So I was like, okay, at least I know where some of these are. And then I kind of just convinced myself, well, if I get this blue, then I'm like halfway done. And now I'm like actually on the journey. And so I think part of it was really just like motivate. Like it was almost like to convince myself to do it. So it's like, just get the blue and then we can start focusing on maybe getting the other ones. So I would say like once I got the blue, then it was like, okay, I have these three. I just need to basically find the gold. And then I know where the other ones are. And so then it's just a matter of like negotiating or getting comfortable with like the price. Right. And so that's kind of
I
how it happened.
recommend people watch the full video. I mean, you went then the card hobby. Well, I like the one where you did research on the gold refractor, who, you asked like it got to the third level of, well, I sold it to him, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And then the orange on card hobby was cool. I really, really enjoyed the journey. And I mean, PSA 10, I mean, I feel like gem rate there is what, 40% generally across the set. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I think it depends. Like I think in general it's a decent gem rate. It's
Yeah.
interesting with the Salah. So like the red, there's just the 110. The orange, I think there's like 9 or so graded and there's like 7 tens. But
Okay.
then the gold, there's only 2 tens and like 8 nines. So maybe there's something with the gold. And then I think the other ones, I mean, they're all pretty, roughly like similar, but I mean, some of them, like some players, they'll have like 14 gold 10s and like 2 nines. So some it's like very like, I don't know, must be like high
Yeah.
gem rate for certain or whatever. But I think generally it's a good gem rate. For whatever reason, there's not a lot of Salah golds like graded. And then the ones that are, there's not a lot of 10s. So that was like one of the tricky ones, is like finding and getting the gold because it was so limited.
Right. Right. And let's see. So you okay, so I mean, have you seen the Superfractor?
No, as far as I'm aware, I mean, I have a little like spreadsheet that I track the pops for the gold, because that's like another set chase I'm doing. And then I will check the pops for like the Salah, and I haven't seen it graded. Granted, like Superfractors, people don't always really need them graded because there's only one, but I haven't seen it. I'm not aware of it. My biggest fear is that it's going to pop up in one of these like case breaks that people are doing, and I'm going to have to like scramble to try and see if I can get it. But yeah,
Right.
I'm assuming it's just buried somewhere.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, if it comes up, you'll do all you can to make
I
a
mean, I'd
photo of
love
it.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's the tricky part about, I think, the hobby in general, is like trying to keep enough like fun, or at the very least like know like I would sell these cards to fund this kind of thing, because it's like it's just hard to keep buying without like consolidating. And so I think that's the piece, is like if you told me I had a year and then I like in a year you can buy it, it's like, okay, cool, I can like figure it out. If it just pops up out of nowhere, then it's like I'm gonna be panicking a little bit.
Right. That's so would you prefer the super or the rainbow?
I don't know, that's tough. I mean, from like a finance, so if I was like quote unquote investing, right?
Yep.
I mean, probably the super. I mean, that's just like something that I think you only need, I mean, there's only one, so you only need one person to be willing to pay you a lot for it. I think from like a collecting standpoint, I don't know. I mean, there's just something about the rainbow that, like, having put it together, there's like meaning to it. I'm not saying it's like worth more than the Superfractor. It's just,
Right.
it's like this project that I did, whereas like, getting a Superfractor, that's just like one card. But that being said, if I did, if I was on some project where it's like, oh, I'm literally gonna try and raise as much money as I can now, so that when it comes up, then I can do it. Then like maybe then it becomes more meaningful. Um, but it's all, I don't know. It's hard to say because until
Yeah.
that thing pops up on some website, then it becomes real.
Honest answer. So yeah, you alluded to it that you also collect the full base set, I guess, at 99 cards of Topps Chrome Gold out of 50s. Um, would you abandon that for the Superfractor?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good question. Um, I mean, I guess the answer probably has to be yes, right? Like, it'd be hard for me to say like, no, I want to keep my, random. But like I guess the problem with the gold set though is, there's some. I mean, there's a couple big ones I don't have. Like, I don't have Mbappe or Ronaldo. I have a Messi 9, so like that would obviously go a long way.
Yeah.
Then there's some others that are obviously, you know, relatively, would yield a good return. But I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of gold cards that are like, I don't know, they're like maybe $50 cards, maybe,
Right.
So, and those are actually like some of the hardest ones to find because they just don't come up for sale. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess if you're saying like hand over this whole gold set and here's a Superfractor, like, yeah, I'd probably take that.
Yeah, just glad I asked good questions, made you think. um,
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean,
do you have the Modric Gold?
I have one. I have it raw. I haven't graded it yet. I don't know. It honestly is probably like a PSA 8 card, unfortunately. But I don't know. I have one, so I'm happy to have one. But I figure what I'll do is if I can get the whole set, then I'll start looking at like which ones can I upgrade eventually. But not quite there yet.
So if you are ever looking to move that one, keep me in mind. But in terms of the set, so I had to get that in there.
Yeah.
Uh, in terms of the goals, how many do you have at this point, and how's that going?
Yeah. So I started it. I'm trying to think. Over a year ago, I started it. I have 91 out of 99.
Wow.
And a lot of them were like, there was just a lot of them sitting around on eBay when I first started. And then I've been trying, there's been a couple card hobby like lots that I won. And then there's a couple guys that I've just never seen come up. And then I think the Mbappe, I'm just sort of being patient just because the only ones that I have seen come up are all like prohibitively expensive.
Right.
And then there's a few that have come up that I've missed because I thought they went too high. And so now I'm hoping that another one comes up. But yeah, I think I have 8 left.
That's amazing. I really, yeah, that's not easy.
No, and it's been fun because it's been something I can focus on. And it, like, when one comes up, there's like that rush of excitement of like, oh, it's like, I don't know, there's like there's like a goalie that I didn't have that came up that I won for like $20. And I was like, oh my God, I finally found him. Yeah. So it was kind of fun to like chase players that I wouldn't otherwise really care about.
I'm doing the I mean, this is the red, but
Oh, nice.
I'm doing the gold award winners insert set.
Nice.
And I just got Jerome Boateng. And there's Gerard Piqué. He's more known than Boateng, but like there were no sales of Piqué. There have been no sales of Piqué or Boateng to date. And Boateng just came out like last week, won it on auction for like
Wow.
$10, like just
Yeah.
Awesome, right? Like I was so
Yeah.
happy. So
Yeah.
I know the feeling of picking up those kind of like elusive ones because they don't sell because they're not valuable, right?
People don't think people don't think they're going to get anything out of them. Like, one of the golds I won at auction for 99 cents. It was just like the only bid. It's like, and then I graded it and I got a PSA 10. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect. It's like 99 cents to a PSA 10.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So, I mean, eventually you would maybe grade them all.
So yeah, I think that's the goal, is like I do want to grade them all. So even if they get like sevens or eights. Like I'd rather just have them graded than not. Um,
Yeah.
and also just, I don't know. I also don't want to like go sell a raw card and have somebody else think that maybe it's a 9 or a 10 and then pay whatever they would pay, you know? So I just haven't gotten around to it because I'll probably just wait for like a special. Like if I know it's only going to be PSA 8, I'd rather not spend $20 grading it if I could maybe spend a little less at some point.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. So what about like, I mean, I know you have a green crystals,
Yep.
2018, so kind of his Egyptian stuff. Do you look at any other anything else in 2018 Prism or any other national team stuff? I mean, the thing I think with Salah, like I kind of mentioned to you earlier, like off air, that compared to Modric, I think Salah goes for more. So maybe he's
Mhm.
just better, but kind of the market reasons for that. I think he has fewer cards, right? Because he's not in 2014, World Cup Prism or 2015 Select and kind of all these,
Yeah.
kind of earlier ones, right? So they're a little more rare. And so, yeah, I mean, in terms of Egypt stuff, I
Yeah.
mean, he
Yeah.
really
No,
only has 2018, right?
yeah. And I think what you just said there is right, where I don't know that like, I don't know that if you surveyed like a bunch of people, they would all think that Salah is better than Modric. I would actually probably guess it would be the other way around.
Yep.
Um, but I think it's lack of like cards, because like if you look at Salah, his like the 2017 Chrome, 2018 Prism, those are like, I mean, he has like other cards in Topps Gold and things like that, but those are like the two first like big like chromium sets that he's in. And then at least in my experience, I found that like Liverpool collectors are just insane. Like every card. I mean, there was a card this morning on Card Hobby that I tried to win. It was like a red refractor from like 2021. And it's so hard. Like you have to basically go above and beyond what you think something is worth just to like win. And then it's like there's so many other people doing the same thing. And so like I think there's I don't know. I think there is like some sort of like Liverpool premium, at least just in I mean, and the other reason I say this is because I was talking to James, a Mad City collector who's collecting the red set.
Yep.
We talk about like just, oh, this one's up. Like, what do you think it's going to go for? We kind of like talk about like what we think the like things should go for. And like the Firmino went for like $3,000 or something. Whereas like other ones go for, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it's like, you wouldn't expect necessarily that he would be one of the most expensive players in the set, but it's like this Liverpool like premium, I guess,
Probably his
that's out there.
best card, maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing, because he's also not in like a bunch of those earlier sets. So anyway, so I guess to get back to the Egypt question. So I have the green crystals. I have a couple other like other parallels of 2018 Prism. I have the gold laser, a PSA 8 gold laser. I
Out of
think out of
15,
15.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have that. Um, Part of the reason I have kind of just like a hodgepodge is with the Topps Chrome, it's like, okay, there's these 6 colors. With the 2018 Prism, there's quite a few more, and a lot that are actually pretty low serial numbered. And so then it becomes like, well, am I chasing every single one of them? Am I only chasing certain ones like under a certain serial? And unfortunately there was a gold. I don't know if you saw, there was like a gold PSA 10. It was on Card Hobby. I was like the underbidder on Card Hobby. Like I like lost. I was the underbidder. Then all of a sudden it pops up on eBay, and then I was the underbidder again.
That
And then it
happens.
popped up on eBay
Yeah.
again. And it's the same seller, and I've noticed this across like a number of different cards, where it basically just keeps getting shilled, unfortunately.
Is it
And
more zoned or something?
I think it's like Tull's Card World or something.
Okay.
TULL.
Yep. I've
They're
seen that.
based in China. I mean, it's just like it's like an epidemic, unfortunately, that
Yeah.
these big cards are getting sold on eBay, but not, it's like at the last minute, somebody's out there. And if you look at the bidding history, there's like a lot of zero feedback, a lot of like low feedback. They're just bidding it up and then hoping somebody eventually pays. And if they don't, it just gets relisted. And so unfortunately, that one, I probably would have paid if I would have won it on Card Hobby, and it would have gone for more than, what is even finishing at auction on eBay now. But so I haven't really, like, it would be cool to have that one. I don't know if I want to try to go after like the entire rainbow because it's just like a lot. And then yeah, I don't know. So I have some stuff, but it's kind of like I haven't quite crystallized like my aim in terms of like the Egypt national team stuff versus like the Liverpool stuff. It's a little more like the top's chrome. And then one thing I've been doing is I have his Galactic from 2017 Revolution when he was
Nice.
with Roma. And then I've been doing a little more research just on like the Galactics in general. And I won another one off Card Hobby recently. And so it's like going after that type of stuff where it's like super short print, maybe non-numbered, but like looks cool, stuff that I just enjoy. But yeah.
Yeah, that I think that gold laser is really nice. So I mean, I think that's a nice parallel to go after. It is pretty short, and it's unique. I mean, they haven't
Yeah.
had it in other sets as far as I know. And green crystals, I don't think they had it in 2022. I don't know. I wouldn't really look at it.
I don't think so. I think what they have is they have like a green ice, but it's non-numbered. So
Okay.
like it's not numbered to 25. I think they just have like an ice, cracked ice type
Yep.
looking parallel, which is kind of confusing. But yeah, the green crystals I feel like is one of the, if I look back to like 2014,
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the more iconic parallels, and so that one I think is like a good one to hold on to.
Yeah, I like those two parallels in 2018. Kind of, obviously the gold would be great, but then they have pink out of 8. Like,
Pink out of 8, and then there's the gold power out of 5, which
yep.
that one is awesome. That one's awesome too. And that was another one that there was one on PWCC recently, and
Huh.
every like any sale ever, said it should be, it'll maybe this is like the highest it'll go for. And like before extended bidding, it was already like 50% higher than that. And I'm like, well, guess I'm probably not getting that one.
I looked through sales history yesterday, I think, for that. I didn't see it. I didn't see it on Card Ladder. Maybe do you know it got paid?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay.
I know historically, I think there was like a P or a BGS went for like, I want to say went for like around 2000.
Hmm.
And I think the PWCC went, yeah, 3600.
Okay.
Yeah, it went for 3600 on June 30th.
Okay.
BGS 9.5, which I think is the highest graded. I think all 5 are graded, and that's the highest graded. So maybe that's why.
Very cool. Let's see. I think we've touched. Yeah. I mean, so I just kind of wanted to talk to you a bit about like kind of other sets you like,
Yeah.
and or any insert sets you like. So, I don't. This is not like financial advice, but just kind of your personal opinion, things you like. I mean, people can check it out for themselves.
Yeah. So sets that I like, because I do a lot of like raw grading just to kind of try and build up funds, right?
Yeah.
One of the sets I do really like, just I like how it looks and I like buying it and grading it, is 2015 Select. I
Yeah.
do like that set quite a bit. It's got a lot of good players. Um,
I'll just give you,
oh yeah, that's the tie dye is what you're showing there, is probably that's like one of my favorite parallels. And I've graded a few of them, and I was like, should I try to collect the tie dye? And then I'm like, oh, that's gonna be too hard because it's out of 30, right?
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So that I'm like, that's gonna be tough. There's a lot of really good, and like the Messi and Ronaldo's, they go pretty high
Oh
for that
yeah.
set. So that's one I like, but I like the tie dye. I just like the simplicity of the set, just the way it looks. There are quite a few parallels, but it's not like insane. It's not like Topps Chrome nowadays. Let's see, what else do I like? I really like 2020 Stadium Club, first year of Stadium Club. I think I like Stadium Club in general because I think some of the photography is just awesome, very aesthetically pleasing. There's in the 2020 set, there's a Sadio Mane card
Yeah.
where he's like kneeling. He's like kneeling in front of like empty stands during COVID. And the photo, it's like the photo, and then it was like during the pandemic, so it kind of like takes you back to this, like it's like they're kneeling against racism, but then in the back it says like stay at home, like put on a mask or something, be safe, stay at home. And so like the whole thing is just this like eerie snapshot of like that time of like what the world was like. But it's just a beautiful photo.
Yeah,
Trying to think what
that
else.
card is. I've looked at that occasionally. I'm like, maybe get a green or something. Like it's amazing. Yeah.
There's a red one on eBay right now, but it's listed for very high. And I actually there was a what is the parallel? It's like the red and orange electric. It's like out
Hmm.
of four. That one was on Card Hobby recently, and I bid on it, but I think it ended up going for like it went for like $600 or something like that.
Wow.
But just insane, just really cool card, really cool photography. You get like the full color parallel as well, kind of like Topps Chrome. Um, I mean, and again, like these, I'm talking about these sets not even as like these are good to invest in. These are just like sets I think look
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
um, those are probably the two. I like Finest a lot. I've always liked Finest, like since I was a kid, like for basketball and football too. I think that's just like nostalgic.
Hmm.
So like Finest is another one that I think has a lot of cool looking cards. I just like a lot of the designs. In terms of insert sets, um, let me think. I like what is it? The Night Moves from Donruss.
Huh.
It's kind of like I don't have one on me, but it's kind of a
What year?
so they have one this year and they have one I think 2022 has one as well. But it's basically just like think of it's like a black background, and then it has kind of like it's like foil, it's like sort of a foil finish, and then it'll be like really colorful, and so it's kind of like it's not like a chromium card, but it's got kind of like a foil colorful kind of like a pop, it just I don't know, kind of pops or whatever. Trying to think. I'm just like I guess I'm just a big fan of inserts that are like I think color blasts look cool, but I just feel like they're all just so expensive and so hyped that it's like hard to really get a lot of them.
Here's the night
Yeah,
moves for people at
yeah,
home.
yeah,
I've never
yeah. It's
seen.
just kind of cool. It's like I don't know, and they're like the case hit inserts, so they're kind of I like things that are like case hit non-numbered because I think oftentimes they can go kind of under the radar. Like I was talking to you about
Mhm.
the Galactics for Revolution, and so I was just looking at Mohamed Salah, like how many Galactics does he have? And I think there's like three. But then you look at the pop reports, and it's like even like Ronaldo for Premier League, like the first Premier League set, there's like 7 graded total from like 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm like, okay, well, how many of these actually are there, right? Um, and so yeah, I guess yeah, those are my initial thoughts. I don't know if you have any like top of mind insert sets or anything that.
I mean, I talked about award winners.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that is a good one
I
too.
I just like it for some reason. Obviously I feel good that it's part of that set, but I just like the Greek and Roman kind of. I can show you the audience
Yeah,
the card again. It's like it makes them look like they're Greek Roman kind of
yeah, yeah.
thing going on. I recently picked up. I don't have it in hand off Card Hobby, but stars in the midfield. 2016 Euro Prism insert.
Oh, okay.
A gold of Modric. So that's kind of like my
Nice,
first Prism gold of him, I guess, which
nice.
is exciting. And I am kind of become a gold simp. I guess you are
Yeah,
too. Uh, to use Brett from Stacking Slabs, I feel
yeah,
like
yeah,
he's
yeah.
kind of rubbing off on me or something. Um, but it looks good. But then I'm a sucker for mosaic.
Yeah, yeah,
I
I do.
brought
Yeah,
which is much cheaper. I mean, this was not expensive.
I have one of these. I was gonna say I have one of these.
Peacock.
Um,
So you
so
have
the Genesis.
nice.
So that's another one where like when I got into cards, I remember like the first mosaic for basketball, the Genesis was like the retail case hit, and so it looked really cool. But even still, like I didn't look at I haven't checked the pops on this, but like even the first like Euro mosaic year, like the Genesis, I don't think there's more than like even like Messi. Like I want to say there's maybe like 15 to 20 graded. I would have to double check the pop reports, but it's just stuff like that where it's like it doesn't have a number on it, so people aren't going to be necessarily like rushing for it. It's not gold, but if you really look at it, it's like, these cards don't really come up that often, and so they're kind of sneaky, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so anything that kind of I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. I agree with you on Stadium Club. Just great overall, great photography. Yeah, yeah, nothing else really on my end. So what I guess you kind of gave us a sense, but anything you're on the hunt particularly for now, like any, explicit goal? Like I guess you're always looking for the golds, 2017. The Superfractor might send you in a frenzy if that comes up. Uh, anything else you're kind of eyeing at this point?
Yeah, it's a good question because I've been asking myself the same question because it's easy to just see cool cards and then want to buy them. So what I've been trying to do is think about like what are the cards, Mohamed Salah cards that I think would be cool. So one thing I'm thinking about is maybe trying to get every Topps Chrome gold he has. So like they're all out of 50, so it's doable. And then since I have the red, I picked up another red. I think it's like 2019. Yeah, 2019 red I got recently.
Okay.
It's this one here. I have it right
Yeah,
here.
show it off. We got
This one.
2019 Topps
So
Chrome, yes.
it's that one. It's actually like kind of more subtle. It's just got the color on the side there.
Yep.
So that's a PSA 10. And so part of me is like, and that's what I was trying to get off Card Hobby this morning, actually, I think it was the 2021. And thought that might be cool, like to get the red run, just because it's
Yeah.
like you get a color match there. Low serial. But I don't know.
I really like 2018 Topps Chrome.
Mm,
I like the design, and the first name is prominent.
oh yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever seen one of those
That
pop up?
No, that one I haven't really seen that often. I think there's a gold that I saw, but not definitely not um not the red. So I don't know. I think one thing that I struggle with in my collection is like, so for example, like I have a bunch of orange top 2017 Chrome. Partially because I, like found some and I'm like, oh, this will be like a Luis Suarez, for example. But then part of me is like, well, am I really going to collect the entire orange set? Like that's basically the same cost as the gold, but like there's only half as many of them. So like
Right.
it'll theoretically be harder to find them, right? And so I'm like, I don't know. And so part of me is like, do I just consolidate those into, more of these like Salah, like red or gold or whatever? And I don't know. I'm still like thinking about it.
Cool.
I do like finding, like I said, the Galactics, or every now and then there's just random like parallels that are like out of 5, out of 9, or whatever. Just like those types of cards. It's like, well, these aren't really, I might never see this card again. And so it's kind of cool to have some of those. But it's also like a balance between like collecting stuff that looks cool, but then collecting stuff that when I go look at my collection, I'm like, oh yeah, I have this card, and so it's
Right.
just sort of that like always challenging, collecting, I don't know, collecting challenges. So
Totally. I can relate. Anything you would change about the hobby?
that's a good question. I think the biggest thing that comes to mind is like just with a lot of the recent sets, like I think soccer is kind of starting to get to the point where basketball and American football have been, where it's just there's a million parallels, there's a ton of sets. There's just, you look at like some of the big young players and they have so many different sets. There was some graphic floating around Instagram where it was like, each year, like number of parallels, number of sets, number of rookie cards for like the top rookies, and it's kind of increasing exponentially now, which I suppose is good in terms of like new entrants having cards they can chase, but I don't know that it's ultimately like the best thing, because I think it just kind of leads to like that hobby hype cycle, and then once the economics catch up with like the supply and demand, then people kind of get, they kind of get wrecked a little bit. I think more tactically, or just this is more of like a wish list type thing that won't probably ever happen with soccer specifically, is because like with other sports, you always just have like, okay, here's this set and here's all the rookies, and here's this set, here's all the rookies, and the rookies are always like whoever got drafted in the in the draft. In soccer, it's like much more nuanced in terms of like what's a rookie card and what's not. And sometimes you have a guy with his like tops rookie in 2019, but then his Panini rookie's 2021. And you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I kind of wish that soccer was a little more like baseball, where like you had like, let's say like Merlin was like the prospect set. So like you would have like kind of like Bowman, like you'd have like, oh, Merlin, like here's their first Merlin card or whatever. And that's like their rookie debut. And then like whenever they go into like Topps Chrome and Topps Finest, that first, maybe that's their rookie. I don't know, something like that where it's a little more standardized. Because I feel what happens now is like you just have all these different sets that there's not like a clear meaning to some of the sets. And then every now and then it's like if a guy's in Merlin but not in the other ones, now all of a sudden like that Merlin card becomes like disproportionately like valuable and sought after. And I don't know, it just creates a lot of weird dynamics that but again, like as I alluded to when we first started, that's kind of what I liked about the soccer card market when I got into it, is like it is nuanced and it isn't very clear. So I guess I can't have it both ways. But to me, that's something that would at least make it a little more, I don't know, clear and straightforward. But I don't know, maybe that's what I like about it, is that it's not clear and straightforward.
Yeah. I like that perspective though. I mean, I've been kind of playing about the Topps thing. I mean, they did start in 21 and 22 with kind of the first set was first edition, they would call it. But they abandoned that this, I guess, last year and this year. Like it's just 23, 24, that product, they don't have it. It's just kind of its own paper.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a big chromium too, but anyway, but yeah, so is the chrome better or is the first better? It's not totally clear to me which one is at this point.
Well, yeah, and then you basically, what it ends up with is like, take like 2017 Topps Chrome. It's like, okay, technically, I suppose that's like Trent Alexander-Arnold's rookie card, because that's like his, it's considered one of like Mbappe's rookie cards. But then like so is 2018 Prism. And it's like, well,
right
there, that kind of creates a little bit of like, I don't know how much sense that makes. And then even now that they put rookie card logos on it, it's just like, there's guys that are showing up in Panini and, like I said, 2021, that they have Topps cards from earlier. But so it's like, how is that their rookie card? And I don't know. It's fine. It's more just like, maybe it's just like the inconsistency that bothers me and not like the complexity, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a thoughtful response, and I like it. Interesting. Well, any kind of like advice or kind of parting advice for those viewers and listeners out there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess a couple things, first, I think first and foremost is like, I would say don't be afraid to like make mistakes. I mean, obviously don't just like blast off $10,000 into like some prospects rookie card and hope that you're going to get rich or whatever. But I mean, like, I think it's okay to like have a hypothesis about something and say like, oh, I like this set, I want to like collect this set or this player and grade it, or I don't know, whatever. It kind of depends on how you interact with the hobby, but I think it's like okay to make mistakes. It's just like making sure you're learning from them. And I think that's like one thing that I've tried to do, is just, and that's really a reason why I share so much of what I do, because even if I don't think it's a mistake, like somebody else will tell me like
Right.
that it's wrong. So then it's like, okay, cool. And then I think more broadly, from like a collecting standpoint, like one thing that helped me is like really thinking about and like reflecting like what it is that like excites you. Like, I think it's very easy to be like, oh, there's this set, well, people like that set, so I have to collect that set. Or there's this player, or like, oh, this and then I think before you know it, you have this like collection that's just, it doesn't really make sense. And what I mean by that is like, it's just a bunch of cards. It's not actually like a collection that means something to you. And so I think it's really thinking about like what means something to you, and then like coming up with, okay, whether it's a team or a player or a set or whatever, what is there like a collection project that would motivate you and inspire you and keep you engaged. Cause that's what it's really all about, is just being engaged in the hobby. That's why the goal 2017 set for me, it's like, it keeps me engaged. It keeps me motivated. It keeps me, connected to the hobby and other people in the hobby. And so I think I think it's important to kind of find whatever that lane or North Star is. And then the last thing I would say is just, just like talk with people. I mean, I think like, it's like we're all like collecting cards really, but
Yeah.
to me, the real benefit is like stuff like this, where, you interact with people, you meet different people from different parts of the world, and you can develop relationships that sure are born out of like a love for collecting cards, but I don't know, just more like just human connection in general, I think is always positive. So
Yeah, yeah, it is, and just you meet people you otherwise wouldn't meet. So that's cool. So on that almost corny note, we'll call it maybe. I know you got to get running to take your kids to school, or I guess daycare. It's the summer,
yeah,
but
daycare time. Yeah.
yeah, but thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, again, I recommend people follow, and you can go back and watch old videos on YouTube. It's at SoccerCardCorner, and that's also Seth's Instagram handle. And I can confirm that he's totally open to talking. So send him a message, whatever. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. So with that, thanks again, Seth.
Yeah, thank you. Had fun. Appreciate it.
Right on. Take care.